Newberry, and we will next take up House Bill 5462 by Representative Filippi.
Thank you, and I believe Roberta has a couple handouts for the committee and for the guests in attendance too. It's quite simple. I'll wait till she gets them handed out. So, as I've researched different types of election systems, what became readily apparent is there's no perfect system. There's no perfect way to do an election. And so I think our goal isn't to find perfection because we'll never find it. I think the goal is to find the least imperfect system. And I believe that an instant runoff where no candidate obtains a majority gets us much closer to where we need to be. And I believe that the people of this state should be given the opportunity to vote on a constitutional amendment to adopt instant runoff elections. Right now we have a plurality requirement pursuant to Article 4, Section 2 of our state constitution. A plurality, is where someone can win with significantly less than a majority vote. Basically, it's whoever gets the most votes wins. Stephen Brands, he's a professor of politics at NYU, testified in front of our Voter Choice Study Commission here a couple of years ago, and he said, quote, that there can be disastrous consequences with plurality systems when more than 2 candidates run for office. And I guess an extreme example would be if you had 10 candidates, 8 of them got 10%, 1 got 9%, and the other one got 11%. Under our state constitution, that 11% vote getter would be the winner. In the last 2 general elections, we've had imperfect results. In 2010, our governor was elected with 36.1% of the vote. Our attorney general was elected with 43% of the vote. And in the most recent election, our governor was elected with 40.8% of the vote. I believe that this does not reflect the will of the people. And to be frank, their will isn't even known when you can win without obtaining a majority. Our plurality system is also detrimental to our system of government and to elected officials because those obtaining office with less than a majority lack the strong mandate needed to effectively govern. I've heard from many, as I'm sure other elected officials have, of the great concerns of the residents of this state with our plurality system. And I believe it is time to provide the people with the opportunity to reform this most critical piece of our republic. I think the evidence shows that a system of instant runoff elections is the most effective, cost-efficient reform that can address the grave problems with plurality elections. It's simple. If you look at your packet I gave you, in a runoff election, a voter ranks his choices by order of preference. And on this handout, you see we have John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and George Washington, and you pick your top 3 candidates. If no candidate initially breaks this 50% threshold with the first choices, the candidate with the least first choices is eliminated, and his or her votes are appropriated based on the voter's next choice on the ballot. This is repeated until one candidate obtains a majority. In your packet, it has a sample ballot of what a majority ballot would look like. The second page is a flow chart which explains how the divvying up of the vote works. And on the third page is a numerical representation of how an election with a majority requirement with a runoff election would play out. Where else is this done? In the United States, it's done in 12 states and city governments, some major cities. Berkeley, California, population 116,000. Oakland, California, population 406,000. San Francisco, 837,000 population. Our neighbor Portland, Maine does it with 66,000. Minneapolis, Minnesota, a city of 400,000 people employs instant runoff voting. St. Paul, 294,000. Memphis, Tennessee, a city of 653,000 people adopt this system. Internationally, the Australia House of Representatives and state governments use instant runoff voting. In India, one of the most populous countries in the world, their president and legislative councils, through their electoral college, use a system of instant runoff voting. In Ireland, the president is elected with instant runoff voting. And in the United Kingdom, the mayor of London, a city of 8.3 million people, uses instant runoff voting. We are a state of 1 million people. I believe that if the city of London can do it, we're more than capable. Instant runoff voting is simple, It is effective, it best represents the will of the people, and enhances the legitimacy of our government. I believe the people should be given the opportunity to adopt this needed reform in the next election by adopting this resolution and allowing them to amend our Constitution.
Thank you, Representative Filippi.
Thank you, Chairman.
Any questions? Okay, let's start with a very patient Robert Healy, who's been waiting a long time to testify.
Sorry, you're my elected wife. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I wholeheartedly support this concept. I think it's about time that Rhode Island looks to its future instead of trying to fix problems of its past. I think that this system is inherently more fair for all people who are running for office because as the system breaks down, it allows people to make their choices, to clearly make their first choices, and then to calculate that through the machinery that we have. Rhode Island right now has had 2 recent elections, but this trend started in '94. It continued in '98. It has been a constant for over 2 decades that we've had plurality governors. I think that there's an indication that the system either is wrong or the system is broken, and here's your opportunity. The beautiful part for you right now, in the near future, you're going to need to purchase election machinery. And if you don't contemplate how the future is going, and you go backwards, you're going to stall the state in the same elective process that it already has. And I think what you need to consider is whether the system is going to change or whether I'm going to go away. And I think that the issue becomes that you'll probably always have a plurality government. I think that it's a far better option for the people of the state to get what they actually want and to be able to choose the choices they want because candidates offer them something and because they feel at the end of it all, they feel that they have a person that represents them. Right now, you're looking at a governor that has 60% of the people of the state who voted, not to mention the people who didn't care and didn't vote, but 60% of the people who voted did not vote for this governor. How can you expect the kind of getting behind that, especially in this day and age where we have a political divide over almost every issue that we're facing? So if you really want the state to come together as a whole, to work as a whole, I think what you need to do is get a system, and you may not like this system. I think it's perfect and fair. I've been talking about it for years, but at least get some kind of system where you can assure that your elected people feel the majority behind them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Healy. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you
for being patient tonight. Could we hear from Randall Rose?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really do not have very much to add on this. I will be, I do support the instant runoff voting for the same reasons that have already been raised. I don't want to bore you guys with a description of all the other kinds of advanced voting systems that have been proposed and the discussion of their pros and cons, because instant runoff voting is one of the better ones, and it's also seems to be the one that is most popular in the 21st century when people are deciding on voting systems instead of just carrying over their past voting systems. So it seems to be the one that gets adopted when people are considering new voting systems. So it has a good track record. It's been tried and tested, and I would urge you to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Randy? Thank you. Michael Pugnana from the Rhode Island Tea Party signed up in favor of this bill without testimony, as did Todd Santol, also from the Rhode Island Tea Party, and Margaret Keane from Operation Clean Government also submitted written testimony in favor of this bill. So that will conclude testimony on House Bill 5462 by Representative Filippi, and we will next take up Representative Jello's bill, House Bill 5372, And then after that, we'll have Representative Coughlin's bill. Representative Agello.
Thank you, Chairman Keeble, and thank you, members of the committee still with us. This hearing is going along, so I'll be very brief. There are a lot of pages and a number of moving parts to this legislation regarding the Board of Elections and primarily dealing with ballots and how they are counted, affirming really that we have paper ballots so that they can be counted and counted again and examined to be sure that we are able to count voter intent. There is one other issue raised in the legislation not directly involved with ballots, but right now the Board of Elections of the state of Rhode Island is exempted from the Administrative Procedures Act, so the Board of Elections may adopt rules and regulations without the otherwise required notification to the people of the state. I think that should change and would like to see the Board of Elections come under the control of the Administrative Procedures Act, of course, except with the exception for emergency situations where there isn't time to advertise. I believe representatives of Common Cause and the ACLU have prepared testimony. I've worked with them on this legislation, so let's go to them.
Thank you. Any questions for the representative? Stephen Brown from the ACLU.
Thank you. The ACLU